I told you my next video wouldn't be as serious or heavy as my last one. In fact, this is my first video I've uploaded since I've turned 26. If you remember last year, when I turned 25, I did my first ever top 10 bestest songs for a previous year, and that was for 1999, the year I was born. Talking about the best hit songs that came out of my birth year felt like the perfect way to celebrate my 2.5 decades of life. So far, I've talked about the best hit songs for all the years of the 2020s so far, plus 1999. Of course, there's 20 years in between that I haven't talked about yet. That is until now. I've decided to bridge the gap between 1999 and 2020 and talk about the best hit songs of all the years of my life. It's likely going to take at least a couple years to get through all of them, but I've decided I'm going to cover them all. And we're going in chronological order, so we're starting off with the year I turned 1 year old, 2000. A few things to know before I dive in. First off, I've decided to only talk about the best hit songs for 2000 and 2019. I won't be doing any worst hit songs for these years. But for those who are curious, I will reveal my picks for the worst hit songs for each year in each video as well. For years where I couldn't even list 10 bad songs from the year and list, because I genuinely didn't think there were that many bad songs on it, as was the case in 1999, I'll only be revealing the top 5 worst hit songs of the year instead of 10. Speaking of which, here are the top 5 worst hit songs of 2000 for anyone who wants to know. Secondly, as I fill in the gap and do all the best hit songs of 2000 and 2019 videos, I'm gonna try not to exclusively do these lists for my channel. I'm sure the occasional cartoon review, Beaverson's video, and a video about topics surrounding media will come out as I do these, especially if I start feeling burned out on doing so many of these in a row. And before you ask, yes, I will be doing the top 10 best and worst hit songs of 2025 at the end of this year. Although these lists will become the main focus of my channel until I get all 20 done, they probably won't be the only thing I'll be doing on this channel during this time. Other types of videos will most likely come out between now and whenever the best hit songs of 2019 video comes out, whenever I get an idea for another type of video and decide I want to make it. Thirdly, the same rules that I've had for all my other best and worst hit songs videos still apply. Only the songs that debut on the Billboard Year and Hot 100 list for each year I'm talking about are eligible. So in this case, only songs that debut on the 2000 Year and Hot 100 list. Don't expect any songs not on there to make my list, or these 5 songs that already made the 1999 Year and Hot 100 list. If you want to hear me praise Smooth by Santana featuring Rob Thomas, go watch my best hit songs of 1999 video. Also, that won't be the last spoiler from that list I'll be mentioning in this video, so if you haven't already seen my 1999 video, be warned. Finally, as always, this list is just my opinion. Don't get upset at me if you don't agree with my picks or their ordering. Let me know in the comments what your favorite hit songs of 2000 were. Okay, time to talk about the top 10 best hit songs of the first year of the 21st century and the second year of my life, starting with number 10. As you probably know, the late 90s to early 2000s was a period of boy bands. Of course, there were the 2 big boy bands I'll talk about later on this list, but there were plenty of others as well. 98 Degrees, Take That, Five, O-Town, Blue, and they want to sing this song, Soul Decision. I don't blame you if you haven't heard of them before. They didn't stick around very long, and this was their only hit outside their home country of Canada. Of course, I have a little bit of bias towards Canadian songs and artists, but I still think Faded is a decent song. Despite being a boy band song, it's a bit more on the risque side thanks to the breathy vocals and the suggestive lyrics. Heck, there's actually a version of the song where the very first line, "When I get you all alone, I'm gonna move in nice and close," is instead, "When I get you all alone, I'm gonna take off all your clothes." Despite being more risque from what you'd hear from the 2 big boy bands around this time, the lyrics don't come off as manipulative or overly promiscuous. Despite not having any swear words, this song still manages to be a bit more suggestive for a song marketed towards tweens, sort of like Christina Aguilera's Genie in a Bottle. Adding that catchy melody and groove, and some juxtaposition between member Trevor Guthrie's softer voice and Thrust's deep voice when he comes in for his rap verse in the bridge, and you could just have a pretty good song. Unfortunately, despite hitting number 1 in their home country of Canada and being a year ahead in the USA, Soul Decision would end up fading out, no pun intended, pretty quickly. Trevor Guthrie would go on to have a solo career, including featuring on Armin van Buuren's 2013 song This Is What It Feels Like, which ended up being a top 10 hit in Canada and several European countries. But as a group, they ended up fizzling out, and pretty much nobody cared about them anymore by 2002. But their biggest song and only hit in America is definitely something to care about them for. Check the song out if you haven't. Now let's talk about a song by a more well-known boy band. It's one of those 2 big boy bands I referenced earlier, NSYNC. Most of you probably know NSYNC best as the boy band Justin Timberlake was a part of before he went solo. And here, we have the group's only song to reach number 1 on the Hot 100. It's Gonna Be Me, or It's Gonna Be May, as people like to say on the last day of April, which is also the day before my birthday. While maybe not as memorable as NSYNC's other 2000 hit, It's Gonna Be Me is still a pretty fun, upbeat dance pop song. The production has a very late 90s, early 2000s sound, with the synthesizers, funky guitars, and the beatbox sounding vocals. It's got a bit of funk influence in its sound, while still sounding like something that you hear from a late 90s to early 2000s boy band. And like the previous song on the list, there is some nice juxtaposition between the voices, with Justin Timberlake's higher, more nasal voice in the first verse, and JC Chasez's deeper voice in the second verse. And the lyrics, written by Max Martin, the guy's written like every pop song ever, are about telling an ex-partner that's recovering from a breakup that when they do finally fall in love with another man, it's gonna be with you. You're not like those other guys. Coming back to you is inevitable. While I can see these lyrics being interpreted as manipulative, it doesn't come off as assertive or condescending. And heck, some could argue it's comforting, since the protagonist is basically saying this ex can always come back to him, and that they don't have to worry about getting heartbroken again. And regardless of the lyrics, the song is just a lot of fun, and certainly one to make you dance to. It's definitely not as minor key sounding as their other 2000 hit, and I can see why this is the one that went to number 1, despite being technically lower on the 2000 year-end list. Definitely one of NSYNC's best, and one that definitely showcases the kind of music they'd be known for. If there's any song that I'd pick to represent how awesome the music of NSYNC could be, guess what? It's gonna be this song.
I'll never let you go. I'll never let you go.
The previous 2 songs on this list were performed by groups who only sang and didn't play any instruments, at least not in the band. But now, we got a song performed by an actual band who play instruments, and it's easily the best song from an actual band to be a hit this year. Well, unless it gets Smooth by Santana, but that was a hit in 1999 as well, so it's disqualified from this list. But Never Let You Go is still a pretty good pop rock song. I loved it so much, it's actually one of my top 10 most listened to songs on Spotify in 2023. And it's not hard to see why I enjoyed it so much. It's got a great guitar melody, especially with a riff at the beginning of the song, but yet it's not so hard that it couldn't be enjoyed by pop fans. I like how happy and upbeat the song sounds, despite it being a song about a breakup. But hey, that actually still fits with the chorus saying, I'll never let you go. Even though the protagonist and his ex aren't a couple anymore, they're not turning their backs on each other. The protagonist is keeping the promise they made to their mother not to do that. And as mentioned in the third verse, maybe they'll still be friends, only time will tell. Other little touches I like include the background vocals throughout the song, and electric guitar being the only instrument played on the third verse before the final pre-chorus, and the first repeat of the final chorus having a gentle acoustic guitar in the background, and being sung in Stephen Jenkins' regular voice, as opposed to the falsetto he uses when singing the chorus the rest of the time. It's remarkable how well all the sounds come together when you consider the fact that with this song, and the album Blue as a whole, each member of the band recorded their parts separately in the studio alone, due to conflicts between the members. But when all put together, it sounds great. It may not be the song most people remember Third Eye Blind for, but it's still a great song that deserves a listen. And while you're at it, have a listen to Deep Inside of You as well, which was the other single from Blue that charted on the Hot 100. That song would have definitely made this list too if it had been a hit. Great work, Third Eye Blind. As I mentioned in my best hit songs of 1999 video, the late 90s to very early 2000s brought us the first Latin music craze, with many Hispanic artists crossing over to America, or American artists incorporating Latin music elements into their songs. While it wasn't as pronounced in 2000 as it was in 1999, we did still see a number of songs falling into this category on the 2000 year-end list. Pierce the Pain, the English version of A Pure Dollar by Puerto Rican band Sun by Four, Give Me Just One Night Una Noche by 98 Degrees, as well as a couple other songs I'll be talking about on this list. But one more song I want to add to this list is Dance With Me by Debla Morgan. This song was definitely a pleasant surprise for me. I always come across at least one of them while listening through all the eligible songs for each year when doing these best hit songs lists. Dance With Me is an R&B song that also has a prominent element of tango to it. It's very fitting for a song called Dance With Me, given the imagery of two people dancing the tango. It's not the kind of song you'd expect to be a mainstream hit, but I'm glad it was. The tango groove sounds incredibly infectious, and it certainly makes me want to dance a tango with somebody. Not to mention that Debla is a fantastic singer. She's got a very soulful voice that fits the song perfectly. Compared to other female R&B singers around this time like Janet Jackson, Toni Braxton, or Aaliyah, she's certainly got a much more impressive range and belting voice. It's close enough to the other R&B that was popular around the time to sound familiar to a contemporary audience, but yet the tango sound is unique enough to make it stand out. I'd still expect the song to be limited to either an album deep cut or only chart below the top 40 of the Hot 100, but yet it managed to be a top 10 hit, which is awesome. Unfortunately, this was Debla Morgan's only hit, which is a shame because this song definitely showed some promise, and she could have stuck around and fitted with those other female R&B singers I mentioned previously. But the one song of hers that was a hit was a good one. Not quite the best R&B song to be hit this year, we'll get to what was the best soon, but certainly one that, as the title says, makes you want to dance. I know some people are going to hate me for this pick, but you know what? I'm not going to apologize for this. Blue Dabba Dee by Eiffel 65 is a freaking awesome song, and I will stand by that statement till the day I die. And don't get me wrong, I can definitely understand why some people would hate this song. It's overly cheesy, the lyrics are seemingly nonsensical, the chorus just consists of the words "I'm blue" and a bunch of repetitive scatting. Jeffrey J's voice is incredibly nasal, the vocals are smothered in autotune to the point where it almost sounds robotic. The lyrics about being blue don't fit with how upbeat the song is, since typically being blue implies sadness, which doesn't remotely match the song's tone. But you know what? Despite all those flaws, I still love the song. You could definitely say the song is a guilty pleasure for me. It's sort of like Barbie Girl by Aqua, and that's a super cheesy song from the 90s that you could say is dumb, but it's just so incredibly catchy that all of its flaws are forgiven. Seriously, that chorus might just be the most infectiously catchy chorus of all time. It's definitely top 5. Also, I would argue that the lyrics aren't totally nonsensical. Calling yourself and everything in the world blue might actually mean that the song's protagonist is actually sad and unhappy with his life. Our protagonist might actually be tired with the same old routine and want something more out of life to make him less blue. And you know what? That's definitely a relatable message. I might be looking too deeply into this. The lyrics probably are totally meaningless, but there's no one right interpretation of a work of art. And the song sounding super upbeat despite the lyrics about being blue might imply that the protagonist is trying to put on a positive smile despite how he feels inside. So the lyrics don't actually clash with the sound. And I actually really like the auto-tune and overly synthesized sound of the song. It gives the song a very futuristic sound, which, given that the song came out at the tail end of the second millennium, when the third millennium was just around the corner, makes the song fit in with the time even more. One thing's for sure, I'm certainly not blue when I hear this song.
I dream of rain, I dream of gardens in the desert.
And here we have another pleasant surprise on this list. And just like Dance With Me, it's another song that you wouldn't expect to be a hit in the year 2000. But even Dance With Me being a hit makes more sense than this. That song played into the Latin and R&B music that was popular at the time. This song? I mean, first of all, it's a song by Sting, an artist whose popularity had been dying down for a few years at that point. The Police had long since broken up, and if he was going to keep releasing music, it was probably just going to be popular in his home country, the UK, if anywhere. Not only that, but this song was a collaboration with Algerian singer Cheb Mami, who I'm sure almost nobody in America had even heard of before this song. Collaborating with him and making a world beat song with elements of Arabic music, and where his featured artist sings in Arabic, was definitely a very experimental move. With all that in mind, you'd think the song wouldn't catch on in America, and that pretty much no one in America would care about it and make it popular enough to be an actual hit. And despite all those factors working against it, it was a hit. A top 20 hit, in fact. To say I'm surprised by this song's popularity would be a massive understatement. And yet, I'm actually glad it did end up becoming a hit. If it wasn't obvious by the fact that it's number 5 on this list, I really think Desert Rose is a great song. It has a very atmospheric sound to it, thanks to the traditional Algerian sound, combined with the synths that do make it sound at least somewhat modern, as well as Sting and Cheb Mami's reverby vocals. The two of them have excellent chemistry here, despite both singing in different languages. That atmospheric sound also fits with the poetic romantic lyrics, comparing a partner to a desert rose. Given that Cheb Mami is from a country that's covered by the Sahara Desert, it actually feels fitting, and Sting mentioning dreaming of gardens in the desert sand gives the imagery of an oasis in the desert. Sting dreams of rain and garden due to the desert being so hot and dry. Life is scarce in the desert, as were Sting's hopes before he met his partner that he's comparing to a desert rose. It's definitely the most poetic song to be a hit this year. It's also one of the year's best. Fantastic work, and for Sting's final song to be a hit or even chart in America, it was a great one to end with.
Say my name, say my name, say my name is around you. Baby, I love you. One day.
This is the best R&B song to be a hit in the year 2000. I'll be honest, Destiny's Child have always been a mixed bag in terms of quality. I wasn't a huge fan of Bills, 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 their other single from the Writings on the Wall to hit number 1 from the 1999 year-end list, or Jumpin' Jumpin', one of their other two 2000 hits. Independent Women Part 1 was decent, however, though not nearly good enough to make this list. But Say My Name? This may just be the group's best ever song. It's got an upbeat, catchy melody that can definitely appeal to pop listeners. I can definitely understand why this ended up being one of Destiny's Child's biggest hits, and one of the top 10 biggest songs of the year. And of course, Beyonce is a great singer. It's no wonder she would go on to have such a huge solo career. She really carries the song. And then we get to the lyrics, where the protagonist is suspecting that her partner is cheating on her. They're acting shady and nervous around her, and not asking how their date was like they were before. They claim they need to bounce just 2 seconds after they got in the house, and the voice of someone else is heard, making the protagonist feel rightfully suspicious. To test them, she asks them over the phone to say her name and say, "Baby, I love you," but they're hesitating. This only further confirms the fact that they're likely cheating on her, because they don't want the other person he's cheating with to know about the true girlfriend. It's a very interesting premise, and it's told very well. The protagonist has good reason to believe that her partner isn't being faithful. It's not a baseless accusation, and she's giving them a chance to prove her suspicions wrong, but they're not doing it, only cementing the fact that they're almost certainly having an affair. She's starting to get irritated, but not outright saying they're definitely a cheater. It's a very well-written song that makes the suspicions of the protagonist sound reasonable given the circumstances, while at the same time, not making her sound assertive or jumping to conclusions. And again, Beyonce's great voice and the catchy melody makes it a ton of fun. Not quite the catchiest song to be a hit this year, that would still be Blue Dabba Dee, but still very enjoyable regardless. Great work, Destiny's Child.
Love comes to those who believe it.
Ah, Celine Dion. She's a legendary singer and has one of the most iconic voices to come out of the Great White North. And of course, as a Canadian myself, I've definitely got some bias for Canadian artists like her, and it'd be blasphemy for me to not praise Celine Dion and the one song of hers that made the 2000 year Hot 100 list. The fact this song is number 3 on this list should make it obvious that I think the song is one of the best hits of the year, and while the song isn't remembered as well as her biggest hits like My Heart Will Go On or Because You Loved Me, it is another song where Celine Dion graces us with her distinctive iconic voice and a great uplifting ballad. Courtesy of songwriting legend Max Martin once again, we got a grand love song about feeling brought back up when you're down and not giving up on love. Love comes to those who believe it. Stick together, don't wallow in sorrow, and never surrender. Typical lyrics for a love/empowerment anthem, but Celine Dion's soulful voice really makes the most of it, especially when she belts on the final chorus and sings those background vocals that give the song a feeling of a gospel choir. Despite being written by the same handful of songwriters for artists like Britney Spears and NSYNC, it manages to sound a bit more mature. And Celine Dion, who had been singing English language music for a decade by this point, quite fitting the song was chosen as a single for her greatest hits album all the way, a decade of song, has a much more mature reputation than those other artists. The song combines her adult contemporary sound with the contemporary pop sound of the time. And of course, the key change really contributes to the song's sweeping ballad sound. Key changes were definitely familiar territory for many of the other pop ballads that are popular around this time. More on that soon. Overall, it's yet another showcase of Celine Dion's power and iconic status as a Canadian musical legend. This song may not have the most grandeur she's ever had, but it still sounds great. There's not much more I can say about the song other than it's a great song. Go give it a listen. And that's the way it is.
Show me the meaning of being lonely.
And on the topic of pop ballads written by Max Martin with a key change, we got a song by the Backstreet Boys. If you couldn't guess, this was the other big boy band at the time besides NSYNC. And I'll admit to bias here. My dad's a big fan of the Backstreet Boys. I actually own the album Millennium on CD. I heard quite a few of their songs growing up, including this one. And while Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely isn't quite as fantastic of a ballad as I Want It That Way, which is actually my #1 pick for the best hit songs of 1999, it is still a very good ballad. Unlike the previous ballad on this list, Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely, man that's quite a mouthful of a song title, has a much more different tone to it. Rather than being very uplifting and grand, it's got a much more lonely feeling to it, hence the title of the song. It's a post-breakup song about dealing with the emotions of no longer being with your partner. There's something missing in your heart. Is this a feeling you need to walk with now? Max Martin is a fantastic songwriter, and thankfully, these lyrics don't come off as melodramatic or oversold. You really can feel the emotion of loneliness in this song, and that's only enhanced by the production. I can't really explain why, but something about the song's sound also gives the song a lonely feeling. Maybe it's that guitar melody that we hear throughout the song. Of course, as a song that came out during the first Latin music craze, the inclusion of the Latin guitar was definitely no coincidence. It definitely helps to enhance the feeling of emotion, which is incredibly fitting for a song about dealing with a heartbreak. But yet, the song doesn't come off as depressing or somber. It's not going for a teary-eyed sort of mood, but more a forlorn mood. And I think it pulls it off very well. The fantastic vocal performances of the Backstreet Boys and the key change also help to raise the song up. This group has always been the pinnacle of boy band greatness, and Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely is yet another great example of that. Again, it's not quite as good as the aforementioned I Want It That Way, or even Larger Than Life, which unfortunately didn't make the 1999 or 2000 year-end list, but it is still a prime example of what the Backstreet Boys are capable of. But despite how much I love this song, there was another song that made the 2000 Billboard year-end Hot 100 list that I think was even better. But before I reveal what that is, let me talk about 5 honorable mentions.
Might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie. Baby, bye, bye, bye.
This song didn't quite make the list, but it was very close. This is my number 11 for the list. It's yet another boy band song, this time about someone who's had enough of a difficult relationship and as such is saying bye 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 to their partner. It's a pretty catchy song, even despite the more minor key sound that thankfully doesn't sound too dour, and is still pretty upbeat and danceable. It actually sort of reminds me of NSYNC's debut single, I Want You Back. Compared to the NSYNC song that did make the list, it didn't sound quite as fun, but I can still see why many people like it and often consider it NSYNC's signature song, despite not being the one that hit number 1. Good song.
I'm with you makes perfect sense. You're my best friend.
Here's the best country song to be a hit in the year 2000, courtesy of one of the most iconic faces of country music, Tim McGraw. This song also just missed the top 10 and is my number 12 pick. It's a pleasant mid-tempo country song where Tim McGraw sings about his best friend and how they brighten his life and are always there to comfort him. This person is more than just a lover to him, it seems to be about his girlfriend or wife, which is fitting when the female harmonization is heard in the chorus. All this is accompanied by a gentle acoustic guitar and pedal steel in the chorus to give it that country twang. Very well done song that sounds about as lovely as a love song should be.
You help me, I'm bent. I'm so scared that I'll never get put back together.
This was one of 3 songs by a rock band hit number 1 in the year 2000. But out of all of them, Bent by Matchbox 20 is the best. I like the underlying guitars, especially that solo on the intro and bridge, Rob Thomas's voice splitting the difference between being a belting rock singer and a timid, nervous person, fitting with the lyrics about being broken and bent, and asking a potential partner if they'll be with you. This other person is just as bent and broken as you are, and because you want to be with them, your collective flaws don't matter. It's not all about asking someone to help fix your flaws, but to just be with you so you can both be flawed together. Certainly an interesting premise and a pretty good song.
Oh, but I feel it when you sing to me.
Yet another product of the first Latin music craze, we got a song by Mark Anthony. Actually, there were 2 songs by Mark Anthony on the 2000 year and Hot 100 list, but I Need to Know also made the 1999 list, so it wasn't eligible. But You Say To Me is the more pleasant of both songs anyway. I like the pleasant acoustic guitar and mid-tempo sound that makes the song sound very romantic, fitting for a love song. That accordion playing the melody on the bridge also makes the song sound very French. It makes it sound like a song played on a couple's honeymoon to Paris, the city of love. I could see this song being used in the soundtrack for a rom-com set in Paris. Mark, I don't know if I love this song, but I feel it when you sang to me.
I can feel you breathe, it's washing over me, and suddenly I'm melting into you.
And here's the second best hit country song of 2000, and another song from an album I actually own in CD. And yeah, this is another song I have some nostalgia for, having heard it a few times as a kid, even if it's not the best song from Breathe. But the album's title track is still a good song. Faith Hill's a great singer, and she could belt out pretty well when the song hits its power ballad-esque crescendo on the chorus, but yet it still sounds gentle enough to fit with the love song lyrics about feeling your partner breathe, and being caught up in the emotion of feeling so head over heels in love with them. A bit surprising this was the number 1 biggest song of 2000, considering it only hit number 2 in the Hot 100, but hey, at least the honor went to a good song. And that's 5 honorable mentions. But there's still one more thing I want to do before I reveal my number 1. For these best hit songs of 2019 videos, I'm actually going to be talking about another 5 songs, in addition to the 10 picks and the 5 honorable mentions. These are songs that were released or became popular in the year I'm talking about, but didn't make the Billboard Year-End Hot 100 list for that year. Maybe they did chart on the Billboard Hot 100, but didn't quite chart high enough to make the year-end list, and thus missed a cut. Maybe they were hits in Canada or the UK, but didn't cross over to also become hits in America. Maybe they weren't hits at all, and are obscure bubbling out of the mainstream songs that came out that year. Regardless, these are all songs that I really like, that I'm disappointed didn't make the year-end list, and would have been talked about in my top 10 if they had made the Billboard Year-End Hot 100 list for the year. Let's call these ineligible honorable mentions, because they weren't technically eligible for the list, but still deserve a mention. Let's go through these 5 ineligible honorable mentions for the year 2000.
Life is a roller coaster, just gotta ride it.
For the year 2000, all my ineligible honorable mention picks are going to be songs that were top 10 hits in the UK. Shout out to Robert Atkinson for introducing me to many of these songs through his tracklist videos of the UK Now That's What I Call Music and Hits albums. First up, we have Life is a Roller Coaster, a great pop and pop rock track with a tinge of bubblegum pop, with an upbeat, happy sound, and love-struck lyrics about wanting to be with your partner and wanting to enjoy the ride called life with them, courtesy of Irish singer Ronan Keating. This was Ronan's second solo single, following the initial breakup of his boy band Boyzone. And speaking of Irish boy bands,
Can't believe that I'm a fool again. I thought this love would never end.
Westlife actually did have a song on the 2000 Billboard Year-End Hot 100 list with Swear It Again, which was actually their only song to chart on the Hot 100. However, I think Fool Again is even better, thanks to its gentle guitar and major key sound, juxtaposed against the lyrics of being disappointed about a relationship ending and your partner never letting you know that they weren't feeling happy. I like how it's not just moping and wallowing in sadness, but expressing how you could have done more to show how much you truly care if you'd been given the chance. Somehow, the major key sound doesn't clash with the melancholic lyrics and sounds oddly fitting. Great job, Westlife. Wish more Americans would have heard this song of yours.
I'm out of love, set me free, and let me out this misery.
It's baffling to me why Anastasia had almost no success in the USA. Not only was she very popular on the other side of the Atlantic with several top 20 hits in Europe and Australia during the early to mid 2000s, but she's American herself, yet almost no one in her home country paid attention to her. Her debut single, I'm Out of Love, was her only song to chart on the Hot 100 at a lowly number 92, and I have no clue why the song wasn't also huge in the United States. It's a great upbeat new disco jam with a funky 70s throwback groove, a pulsing nightclub rhythm and melody, and Anastasia's soulful vocals that make her sound like a 70s Motown singer, perfectly fitting with the song's sound. I'm not out of love for this song. Just like how there were way too many boy bands in the late 90s or early 2000s, there were also way too many girl groups. While the Spice Girls, TLC, and Destiny's Child were huge, Here's a girl group that fell by the wayside and who didn't last very long. Girl Think can be described as a Spice Girls knockoff, given that they're another British girl group quintet. Heck, the song's overall sound, especially with the key change and rapping on the verses, definitely reminds me of Wannabe. But as unoriginal as some might call it, I actually really dig the late 90s to early 2000s pop sound, along with the feminist themes that could only be sung by a group called Girl Thing. Perfect song for a late 90s to early 2000s themed party. Picking just 5 ineligible honorable mentions for the year 2000 was difficult. There were quite a few other good contenders that were huge in the UK but not in America. But I decided to cap it off with this pleasant soft rock song, courtesy of Scottish band Texas. It's a pleasant song with the acoustic guitar melody that doesn't get too loud, even when the electric guitar and drums are heard, with lyrics about telling an ex-partner that you're in a new relationship now and that they lost a chance to be your special someone because they thought the relationship wouldn't last. Maybe his lyrics are a bit condescending, but it's still a pleasant song and one that captures that nostalgic feeling quite well. But now, let's talk about a song that actually did make the Billboard Year and Hot 100 list for 2000, and is a song on the list I like the best. The #1 best hit song of the year 2000.
I can't go on. I wanna be with you.
I don't imagine this song will be many other people's best hit song of 2000. This is a song that, despite hitting #1 the Billboard Hot 100, I don't really hear anyone talk about nowadays. Heck, even Enrique Iglesias' other #1 song from his debut English language album, Bailamos, seems to be remembered more. And I don't know why that is. Once again, it's yet another song that was released during the height of the first Latin music craze of 1999 to 2000. As I pointed out in my top 20 best hit songs of 1999 video, Enrique Iglesias was one of several Hispanic artists to cross over into the American mainstream during this time, and unlike Ricky Martin or Mark Anthony, he managed to have over a decade of longevity in the English-speaking world. And listening to this song, I could see why the American public might have thought this guy was worth keeping around for many years to come, because it is a freaking fantastic song. I mean, it's #1 on this list. It's a song that debuted on the 2000 Year at Hot 100 list that I found to be the best. It should be pretty obvious that I adore this song. It's the best song I've ever heard from Enrique Iglesias, and showcases him at his most raw and emotional. On the surface, it made it seem like a typical love song, but there's much more to it than that. It's not merely a song about loving your partner, it's a song about missing them and wanting to be with them. You feel down, cold, and alone. Time seems like it's moving slow on your own, and you're trying to fight the tears and fake a smile. But inside, you know you just want to be with the one you love. A touch of their hand and hearing their voice can save you and keep you from losing your mind. However, unlike Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely, the song doesn't feel forlorn. It's not a post-breakup song. You and your partner aren't apart from each other. You're away from each other. It's an emotional and lonely song, but in a different sense, and it just works so well. It's a plea to your partner to come to where you are and make you feel less lonely. And the production manages to pull out that emotion as well. That acoustic guitar that opens up the song sets a tone. It helps it to give it a similar lonely but not depressing or melancholic feeling to the previous song on this list. And even when the synths come in before the first verse to make the song sound more upbeat, that feeling isn't lost. It's a song that manages to sound both simultaneously slow and upbeat at the same time, and depending on your mood, you could gravitate toward either. It's a song that you could dance to, or a song that you could simply chill to. The tempo strikes a perfect balance, and it could sound great as an acoustic ballad without having to slow down the tempo. Between the intro of the song as well as the bridge, the two parts of the song where the acoustic guitar is most prominently heard, it already has everything in place to work as an acoustic ballad. But you know what? I'm glad the song still has an element of dance pop to it. It helps strike that perfect balance of upbeat and slow. I don't imagine the song would have been as successful, certainly not a #1 hit, if it had just been an acoustic ballad. And heck, the upbeat sound makes sense, since it also helps to work with the potential excitement the person will feel when they eventually do get to be with their partner again. That's something Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely wasn't able to showcase, due to explicitly being a post-breakup song. And to top everything off, Enrique Iglesias' pleading but not oversold voice, and the occasional piano in the background is the final cherry on top to setting the song's tone. If your partner ever goes on vacation, and you're alone at home and missing them, Be With You is a perfect song to describe how you feel in the moment. Time moves slow, and you miss having them near. You wish they'd come back. There's nothing more you want to do than be with them. But you can't wait for them to come back so you can run toward the door and give them the world's biggest hug. It sort of reminds me of Sweater Song by Headley, except it's only told from the perspective of one person. Perhaps it's the person who's left home, as the City Lights, Streets of Gold line in the first verse seems to imply. They're away from home because they left for the city, perhaps because they're on tour, which would make perfect sense for Enrique Iglesias. Maybe he wrote the song to describe how he was feeling about missing his partner due to touring and being away from them. But I like how the song isn't explicitly from that perspective and works for either person in the relationship, the one who left and the one who's still at home. The song perfectly captures that lonely but not depressing or forlorn feeling of missing your currently absent partner, and just sounds beautiful. And for all that, it's my pick for the #1 best hit song of 2000. If you haven't heard the song, go give it a listen. I just want to be with it. And that's the top 10 best hit song of 2000. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you'll enjoy the other 19 videos in this series as I release them. The best hit songs of 2001 will be coming out soon, so see you for that. Till then.